Hi theatre fans and welcome back to my channel. So literally booked a ticket to go and see Shrek the Musical in Cardiff at the Wales Millennium Centre, running very late. I literally decided this very minute to go and see it. So I'm literally jumping in the car now in the hope that I will get there in time. So I'll give you some feedback on the show shortly. Okay, so I finally made it in time. I had to travel through rush hour, a bit of a nightmare, a lot of standstill traffic, but I got here because it's an early start. The show starts at 7, and I saw the last tour here a few years ago, and I ummed and ahed whether to go and see this production, but I love going to the theatre, so I thought I'll get a little cheap seat and to see what this production is like. So I've heard some mixed reviews about it, so I shall go in open-minded, and I'm sitting in the circle, row G, which is the back row of the circle. It's not the best row or view, but it should be okay for the price that I've paid, and I'll talk about that later on. And I've also just got myself my programme, and I'll have a read through that now before the show starts at 7, which is an early start. I'm guessing it's down to children being on half term and obviously needing to get home earlier as well. So just about to go in, and I shall give you my full review and feedback shortly. So as mentioned earlier, I decided to go and see the show at the very last minute. In fact, I booked my ticket 2 hours before the performance started. And the reason I ummed and ahed about it is because I've heard mixed reviews about this current UK tour. Now, I have seen this tour on its last UK tour in the same venue about 2-3 years ago, and I did enjoy it. Now, I've also seen the Broadway version on DVD several times, so I wasn't that fussed about seeing the show again, but curiosity always gets the better of me, and also it's a night out, and it's not too far away either. So I decided, I thought I'll get a little cheap seat and I'll go and have an enjoyable evening. So the performance started earlier at 7 o'clock, which is unusual for theatre shows, as usually they start at 7:30. So I'm putting it down to Shrek being a children's musical, and being not many children there of young age, they obviously, the sooner the show starts, the sooner they can get home and to bed, because the show actually finished about 9:30, 2.5 hours later, which would be relatively quite late for many of the children in the auditorium. So I rushed to get to Cardiff for 7. It was a bit of a mad rush, I will be honest with you, having booked the ticket last minute. But I got there in time. I collected my ticket, and I also had time to pick up a programme. And and get to my seat in plenty of time. Now, the theatre itself wasn't completely sold out or full. In fact, I had no problem in choosing a good seat at a cheaper rate. In fact, actually, my row and the row in front was, in fact, empty. So I had a great view, in fact, and I'll talk about the seat shortly. So as many know, the musical Shrek is based on the DreamWorks film of the same name, where Shrek at the age of 7 gets sent away and goes and lives in a swamp. Lord Farquaad, who rules the land, wants to get rid of all fairy tale character creatures and sends them to the swamp. Shrek basically doesn't like the invasion of other people into his land, so he goes to speak to Lord Farquaad, wanting his land back. Lord Farquaad wants a wife, and so decides in a deal that if Shrek can go and rescue the princess from the dragon's tower, that he could have the swamp. So Shrek, off he goes to rescue Princess Fiona from the tower, rescues her, takes her to Lord Farquaad, and on the way they sort of find a mutual respect for each other, and we learn that by the end of Act 1 that Princess Fiona actually has a deep dark secret, when in fact she's also very similar to Shrek by night, and only true love's kiss will actually reveal her true identity. So in the second act then, under miscommunication, Shrek overhears Princess Fiona talking to Donkey about how ugly that she is, but Shrek misinterprets that, thinking that she's talking about him, decides to send Fiona away to Farquaad, and so he heads back to the swamp, having gotten his end of the bargain, and anyway, subsequently the ending, Donkey Fire tells Shrek that that he overheard, that she's just like him and that he needs to go and rescue her, which he does, and interrupts the wedding, and Lord Farquaad gets eaten up by the dragon before Princess Fiona actually kisses Shrek and actually stays in that form for the rest of the show, and ends on a very happy ending, as he always will, because that's what fairy tales are, happy ending. What I liked about the ending as well is Shrek's phrase or sentence that's sung at the end of the show, and it's actually in the programme as well. It says fairy tales should really be updated because it isn't really about happy endings, that good-looking people should marry each other and be happy with each other. And also I love the dynamic of the fairy tale characters as well. Where they have their Freak Flag song, which I think is fantastic because, one, it's an upbeat song anyway, but also it shows that everybody is different, everybody has their own unique different traits, and that we are all the same no matter what. So, my thoughts on this current UK tour, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan. Now, for me, it felt... it was a professional show, but felt a little bit amateurish. I don't how to explain. I feel that the producers of the show decided one day, oh, let's put Shrek back out on the road, and went to somewhere else, fished out the old set, got a few actors together, rehearsed, and sent it on its way. The set is exactly the same as the last UK tour. But there are quite a few changes from the last tour to this one, not in a good way, if I'm being honest. Now, the introduction is slightly different. It still opens with the book at the start, but instead of having Shrek, mum and dad, and a child playing Shrek who gets sent away on his 7th birthday, you actually have a projection of the book, and the actors' characters stick their heads through the book, and the projector interacts with them, saying how he's going to send them away, etc. Also cut from the introduction of the show is where we see Princess Fiona being dragged off by mum and dad to the tower. Again, this would have been played by a child, and in fact there were no children whatsoever in this show. And the reason I say that is because when Fiona sings her song, I Know It's Today, usually that song is sung by two little girls of different ages and then by Fiona as an adult. And in fact, this time, the whole song was sung by Fiona and through the use of puppets, which I'll be honest with you, I did not enjoy at all. I thought it was very strange, very amateurish, very childish. I know it is a child-friendly sort of show, and I'm sure a lot of the children would have enjoyed that element, but I just, having seen the previous productions as well as the Broadway, I knew what I was expecting, and when this came on, I was like, oh good grief, what's happening here? So, yeah, it didn't start off very well, I'll be honest with you. There were slight other changes as well. I unfortunately skipped my mind now, but only subtle type of changes. I felt the set just looked a bit drab. Like I said, literally it felt like they've just fished it out of the back of a warehouse and thrown it around. Not saying that the production wasn't bad. There were elements that I did like. I think the puppetry of the dragon is very clever. The choreography is brilliant, the lighting is brilliant, and I'll talk about the actors in a minute. It just felt very pantomime-y. I know it is sort of meant to be in that sort of context, and very sort of aimed at children in the fact that there was a lot of toilet humour, which a lot of people do find funny, but it's not my cup of tea, I'll be honest with you. Okay, so on to the characters. So inside the main programme, which is your picture book, you also had a smaller programme, which obviously had the actors in it. And we had understudy Shrek on tonight, understudy Donkey on tonight. Lord Farquhar was the same as was Fiona. Obviously then the swings filled in for the fairy tale characters. So our Shrek last night was Michael Carolan, who I've not seen before or heard of. He has been in Ensemble in Annie, West Side Story, Sleepless in Seattle Workshop, which is interesting actually because that was meant to tour but got pulled out, starring Danny Mac, and it got pulled, so don't know what's going to happen with that musical. I'll be interested to see that one. But Michael Carolan, yeah, he did a good job. I just felt because we had two understudies throughout the whole show together, there wasn't that much chemistry. And obviously, I'm sure they rehearsed many times together. I just felt maybe at the back of my head, and I knew that they were understudies. Not saying that understudies are bad, because in fact, actually, I've seen some great understudies. I just felt they were just going through the motions of getting through the show, and there was no connection, no chemistry between them. And I felt that with Fiona and Shrek as well. There was no chemistry between them, which is a shame, and it's not the actor's fault. It's just the way it was, I'll be honest with you. My only criticism for Michael was I felt the accent kept changing throughout the whole show. Now it's meant to be a Scottish accent, which you could majority hear, but then it did slip now and again through the whole of the show, as did a lot of the fairy tale characters as well. And we had a mixed bag of accents from all the characters, which is the norm. However, a lot of them just sounded very, very strange. So Shrek was played by Kevin Yates, and he did his best as Donkey. I gotta say, he did do a good job. He tried very hard for us to warm to him, and he was quite funny and quite amusing. Out of him and Shrek, I think I prefer Donkey to Shrek. But again, I'm not seeing him anything. He hasn't done much else, I'll be honest with you. But nevertheless, it is what it is. And, they did the best of their ability. Just unfortunately, I just felt I couldn't connect to them. So Princess Fiona is a shared role. Currently this week we've got Laura Main, who has starred in all 6 series of Call the Midwife. Now, I haven't seen that TV programme, to be honest with you, but I've heard a lot about it, so I don't know who she was. She's also been in lots of other TV programmes as well, but I didn't like her. I didn't like the character. I couldn't relate to her. I found it to be sort of whiny. I know she is whiny anyway, just... Ugh. I can't explain. Not saying that the actress was bad. She wasn't. In fact, maybe it's because I never liked the character Fiona, even in the films either. But I know Sutton Foster, who did the Broadway version, was great, and I thought that was fantastic. I know you shouldn't really compare characters and actors, but anyway. So next week, then, Amelia Lilly is coming to the carrying on the tour. Whether she's going to be in the other venues as well, maybe, I'm not too sure if they both shared in all venues, or maybe Laura Main is actually finishing this week and Amelia Lilly's continuing on. I'm not sure. Now, Amelia Lilly, obviously from the X Factor fame and American Idiot as well. I would have liked to have seen her, if I'm being honest, because I think she would have given something different to the role, so it would have been interesting to see what she would have done. Now, my all-time favourite character from Shrek is Lord Farquaad. It's actually one of my dream roles. I'd love to play that character. He's such a fun character to play. And that was played by Samuel Holmes. And I have seen him in something else. This is why I love programmes, because I actually can see what they've done before, and then I fish out those programmes just to double check that. And yeah, I saw Samuel Holmes in the production of The Wedding Singer, which was on his last UK tour last year, and I gotta be honest with you, I hated that show. I really didn't like that show at all. But Samuel Holmes did a fantastic job as Lord Farquaad. I'd like to say it's quite a difficult character to play, and choreography-wise anyway, because he's obviously you're on your knees for the majority of the show, with elements of him swinging from swords and pretending to run on people's backs where he has to stand up. But it's cleverly done. It's very, very cleverly done. And but I thought he was really good, and you could tell the audience really liked and enjoyed his character, and he did a great job for that. Now, the rest of the ensemble also did a brilliant job. I gotta say, I thought Pinocchio was brilliant. I've always enjoyed the character Pinocchio. I thought the actor for that was brilliant. As was Gingy. I thought she was brilliant, acting-wise and singing-wise. But another standout performer for me was the voice of the dragon. Now, the dragon has her own song, which is fantastic, and what a voice this woman has. She also plays the fairy godmother as well, and that is Lucinda Shaw, dragon fairy godmother. She's been in Cats, The Life, Gypsy, From Here to Eternity, The Bodyguard, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. That's how I probably recognise her then, and the voice, because she's one of the divas, because you've got to have a powerful voice to sing those notes in that show. And when I heard the dragon sing, I was like, yeah, took me back to Priscilla straight away. Brilliant job. There she is there. But like I said, they all did a fantastic job. The music was great. I do like the soundtrack to Shrek. There are a couple of differences songs-wise from the Broadway version and the UK versions. Some songs have been cut, some songs have been added. Now, the UK version does have I'm a Believer at the very end, when Broadway doesn't, due to copyright. And even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the musical, I did enjoy the show. It is a fun show. All the cast did a great job of performing, and I'm just glad that I bought a cheap seat rather than paying full price, as I would be quite disappointed if I did pay the full price. I think the top price ticket was midweek £48, on the weekend I think it's up to £56, which I would have begrudged paying. So going back to where I was sitting, which was in row G of the circle, it was the back row of the circle, and it's a very clear, good view, except you can't really see the expressions of the actors' faces clearly. But everything else you can see very, very well. Like I said, if it was a different production, I would have sat a lot closer to get the full effect. You did feel a little bit away from the action, but it didn't take away anything from the story. Overall, it was a good view. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on the current UK tour. Let me know below in the comments if you have seen the show or are going to go and see the show. Please don't be put off by wanting to see it, because it is still a good show. If you haven't seen the show before, you're going to enjoy it. For those that have seen it, you might be a little bit disappointed, so heed the warning and before going to see it. But yeah, I'd love to hear from your thoughts and views on it. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What was your favourite bit on the show? What do you think of the changes? Were they better? Were they worse? But I'd love to hear from you. So if you do like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like my videos, maybe you want to follow me and hit the subscribe button. I regularly go and visit the theatres often as I can. I've got a lot of shows coming up this year with a lot more videos to come as well. So if you want to see more of those, hit the subscribe button and I will see you on the next video. So until next time, thanks for watching and happy theatre.